So a couple options for this one. If you want, you could attempt to simplify that first and then start plugging stuff in, or we could just, small enough, let's just have at it and see what happens. So I want to draw an angle whose cosecant is 13 over 4. So I want to draw it in the first quadrant, even though they did not specify. Maybe it doesn't matter. I'm not sure. So it could be a fault in the problem. I'll check that soon. Or maybe it doesn't matter. It's going to balance out. It's going to be positive or negative no matter how we draw it. So I'm going to do first quadrant, and the cosecant is the sine flipped over. So if sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, the cosecant is the hypotenuse over the opposite. So the hypotenuse over the opposite, so the hypotenuse is 13, and the opposite is 4. So, and then I'm going to need to find all this stuff. So I actually am a little bit tempted to simplify because maybe I don't need to. Maybe this all just simplifies like, oh my God, that is the cosecant, right? So let's see what happens. We have sine of A over, or sine of A times tan, which is sine over cosine, and then that's over another cosine. So if you're dividing by cosine, you're multiplying by 1 over cosine. So this is not, oh, well, it's sine squared A over cosine squared A. So it's tangent squared A. So that's neat. All I need to do is find the tangent and square it. So I do need to figure out this other side in order to find the tangent, because the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. My goodness, if I'm going to write it. So I'm going to do SOHCAHTOA. So I've got a squared plus 4 squared equals 13 squared. If you solve for a, you're going to get that it's the square root of 153. Nice and positive in the x direction for now. And so our tangent is the opposite over the adjacent, and we're going to square that. So we're going to get 4 over 153, or 16 over 153. Let's see. Okay. And so now let's check a couple things. Let's check to see if we would get the same answer if we just plugged, we should get the same answer if we just plug stuff in there. So if I plug it directly in, get a different color. We plug it directly in, the sine is 4 over 13, and then the tangent is 4 over square root 153, and then we're dividing by the cosine, which is the square root of 153 over 13. So we're multiplying by the reciprocal, 13 over square root 153. And so our 13s do cancel, and we are getting 16 over 153, just like we said we would. Oh, excellent. The other thing we do need to check is maybe I made a mistake and I needed to tell you what quadrant we should have been in. So let's take a look at that. What other quadrant is the cosecant positive in, right? We have this positive cosecant, and cosecant is the sine flipped over, so sine is positive over here as well. So I could have had a hypotenuse and opposite there, and then this would have been a negative 153. So then anything with a 153 would have been negative, but then the negative times the negative would end up being positive anyway, and I get back down to there. So it turns out sometimes when they don't tell you what quadrant it is, it doesn't matter, because hopefully, the CSET makes mistakes sometimes, but hopefully they are on target and you can safely draw it in quadrant 1 if it's positive, or pick your quadrant when it's negative, depending on what trig function you have. Whew. All right, there you go.